Hey, hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Questions That Keep Me Up All Night. Today, we're exploring the intersection of entrepreneurship and traditional employment. Joining me is Taneshia Johnson, a mental health coach and owner of TJ SelfCare, a platform dedicated to empower individuals to prioritize their mental well being. TJ, what's
Hey,
up, girl?
how are you? Great to see you.
It's good to have you again. I'm so happy whenever you can take time to talk to me. I know she said, "Are we gonna do this informal or are we gonna do formal?" I always gotta tape something, okay? I always have to have it for the pod because other people need to get these gems, I'm telling you. We're gonna dive into some of your insights on navigating these two worlds. I was kinda asking you, like, you're an entrepreneur. I've seen, even just from the last couple of times talking to you, like, things growing. I love that you're sending out your emails, and I'm just curious, my mother and I are both budding entrepreneurs, right? And I feel like we've both been putting in money and doing things, and it's like, are you being successful? Do you think that you always have to have a job and be an entrepreneur at the same time? So, I just wanna kinda pick your brain about this. So, I appreciate you joining us. I wanna ask if you can tell us a little bit about your journey as a mental health coach and how you balance being an entrepreneur and an employee.
Yeah, so it has been a challenge, and originally, I did want to pursue, doing this full time. But it was hard to get it started. My 9 to 5, I'm a social worker and a home visitor to first-time moms here in San Francisco County. And so the nice thing is I am able to have a flexible schedule. So I get to schedule, like, when I see my clients, and as long as I'm hitting a certain quota, then that's all that's expected of me. And just about a couple of years ago, I just concluded that I think I'm going to just keep this, um, and see what happens on this journey with the business because of the flexibility. And it gives me the space to be able, to take days off or do what I need to do, if I need to promote my business. When I did a tour in 2022, it was like a 5-city tour. It wasn't like nothing big, but I was happy that I had been at this job for 7 years by then, and I was able to just have that time accumulated so that I could go and do that. So I think it's really about us kinda doing the numbers, seeing like, "Okay, well, how much do I need to make per month for things to come in and be smoothly for me?" And for me, I haven't been able to hit that goal yet with my business.
That makes sense when you're talking about, like, the flexibility that your job now allows, because sometimes it's like, okay, do I give this up and go full-fledged into entrepreneurship? Because sometimes people are like, you just gotta jump, right? But there's some of us that are like, who's going to catch my bills? Okay, like, who's paying this car note? Who's doing these things while I'm jumping?
I love that. Who's gonna catch these bills,
Who's
okay?
gonna catch these
Okay.
bills? And it's like, sometimes I think there's this guilt of, like, if you don't jump, that's why it's not working, because you didn't put your all into everything. But there's something to be said about a job, like, shout out to my job right now. I mean, they don't pay enough. Figure that out. But the flexibility is unmatched, the flexibility to be on 5, off 5. They, give me concessions for my religious observances. They give me concessions, like, when I have some of my events, programs, you know what I mean? So it's not, it's very, like, I don't have to tell them my business, but hey, I need to be off. Can I switch things? And it's never been a pushback. And so in that sense, I'm kind of like, I was talking to you before we got on, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, thinking about trying to get a career in what I got my master's in. And in order to do that, I might have to um maybe quit my job that's flexible. And I'm like, but do I want to do that? Because if I am trying to be an entrepreneur on the other end, what works for me? So that's, I guess, you have to figure out what works for you. And I think that you have done that. But what led you to choose this path? And what are some challenges that you faced? When you said before, you told people, like, I'm gonna be out like a couple of years, I'm be doing my business. What led you to be where you are now, and what were the challenges that brought you there?
Well, I originally just really wanted to write my book. I didn't know what all it was going to entail, but I just wanted to share part of my story, with people and write the book. But the book ended up being like a platform for me to like do speaking engagements, do workshops, do the one-on-one coaching. So it just kind of spiraled into this, really into like this business. And at the time, I wasn't really ready for it. I was going through some personal transitions with, grieving my father. He had recently passed as I launched my business. So I just kind of ended up putting all my time into the business. And by the time I finally like kind of calmed down and settled, it was like 2.5 years into it. And I just turned around one day and I was like, I have 15 coaching clients. This is crazy. Girl, by 40, I'm gonna be doing my own thing and I'm gonna get this big time deal. Well, you guys can't see it, but I was gonna say, and as you can see, I am still sitting right here at the county desk.
Hey, ain't no shame, boo. Ain't no shame, okay? Sometimes that's where we are. I like that you said, my mother just recently lost her father, and we were talking about, sometimes like God kind of knows when things are going. Like when she lost her mother, right before she lost her mother, my little sister was born, right? And then so she lost her father, but her brother just had a son right before he died. And so it's like, there was new birth in the death. And same for you, like this business was this new birth, right? While you were grieving your father, and it allowed you to pour into the business, right? Pour into that new baby and grow that baby. And maybe that was the fuel that you needed to get yourself off the ground and become the entrepreneur that you are. So, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Like, but there's a blessing in that, right? I want to know, what are some key differences you've noticed between working as an employee and running your own business?
Working as an employee is much more easier. It actually helped me because I was very controlling at work. I was so unhappy in other areas of my life that work had to be, I guess, quote unquote, perfect. I was trying to make it perfect. And so I used to do a lot of advocating for myself or advocating for our program when I felt like things were in disarray. And by having my own business, it really calmed that part of me down because I realized like I'm not really supposed to be here. This is just a paycheck. This is someone else's dreams, right? This is this organization's dreams. Like this isn't
Wait a minute. You know how I always have to run you back. This is somebody else's what? She said, this is somebody else's dream. I get you.
his dream, and I'm just a part of whatever they want to do. I have to keep my energy from my own because, as you know, running our own businesses is crazy and it brings a lot out of you. It's like I learned, like, okay, I'm not structured, I struggle with time management, and I learned a lot of these lessons trying to do, having the business. Just this week I scheduled, I thought I was gonna be able to do a workshop for somebody. It was a free workshop, but still, and I realized I couldn't because I'm gonna be doing another call. So then I had to call them and, reschedule and try to get another date and all that. And so I don't have time to like also do that at work. So now I'm just here, I take my instructions and that's it. You know?
That's that's funny you say that because I go hard for my job. Even though I don't know what, like, I'm everywhere, I'm like, I go hard, like, "Y'all gonna run these calls." Like, I don't wanna hear it, "If we don't do this, we don't get revenue in." And one of my coworkers, she was like, "Go ahead, girl, make that money for your CEO." And I'm like, "Womp womp." Like, I thought about it. She's like, "You going so hard for somebody else's dream, right? Somebody else's dream, not yours." And it's not saying don't do a good job at work. I'm not saying that. But like, what are you stressing about if you can't change it? They paying you these measly old $25 an hour. you know, you got 4 degrees and you're not getting what's your worth. Why are you going so hard when you can, yes, keep the flexibility, keep the job that's going to pay your bills, but use your energy for your stuff, right? So I appreciate you saying that. How do you prioritize self-care and avoid burnout in both roles? Because you are burning the candle at both ends, so to speak.
That is true. I still haven't really navigated that yet because um, I mean, I try to just make sure that I get my rest. I stay on top of my doctor's appointments. So much of this work, though, is really about my work, at least, is about helping other people, like with their own emotions and feelings and problem solving. So I just try to make sure that when it comes to my life, I try to have things smooth. I try not to schedule too many appointments for myself throughout the week. I also had to get better at monitoring my calendar because I know at one point it was crazy. It was 3 people at my day job, 3 people at the business, and when you hear it aloud, it's like, "Oh, yeah, 6 hours," that's a work day, but just picking up 6 different types of energy was too much for me in one day. So now I only have 1 work client most of the time, and I might have 1 or 2, coaching clients.
The flexibility is looking good on you because the flexibility that I feel is that's what we all want. Time is money, right? And so sometimes it's not always like what top dollar are they paying or how close it is or whatever. It's more like how flexible can I be? How much can I get out of today's work without burning me out? So, what I'm hearing you say is that you chose to kind of calm down on the entrepreneur side and your job side, and the flexibility is helping you kind of navigate work-life balance.
Yeah, it really did. I had to look at like what's required of me. Like what is this job requiring of me? It's like, okay, I have 10 clients and I have to see all these clients 2 times a month. So how am I going to schedule those out? Because that's priority. And then schedule the business, after that, and then also of course fit me in between. And the working from home 1 day a week, that helps because I'm able to do my family things with my mom, and that's the day that I mainly do my own, appointments and stuff. But to speak frankly, I still have yet to navigate how to not, because I still find myself working when I get home. Like a couple of hours. I may be posting a podcast or typing up one of my emails, or sometimes even when I'm on the train, I'm looking through my calendar. I'm reaching out to clients I haven't heard from for a while. So it is still like a hustle and bustle. But I try to have my days where I don't do anything business related and just do stuff for me. And most importantly, just rest too.
Rest is key. Rest is key because, we ain't gonna be here. We ain't gonna be good for nobody if we don't rest and rejuvenate. So I'm talking to myself here. What advice would you give to someone considering entrepreneurship, especially in the mental health space?
Mm, be mindful of the population that you work with, and also your value, because value does make a difference. Because when I first started this, I didn't know what to charge people. So I was pretty much charging people the same thing I got paid at work. And looking at it now, I'm like, I was dirt cheap. I mean, I was like $40 an hour, $40 a session because that's how much I was getting paid at my job at the time. But to me, I was kinda looking at it like, "Oh, this like double money because 'cause I'm talking to people on the clock, I'm winning." In my mind, I was winning, but when it was really boiled down to it, I'm like, "Tanisha, this is not winning because you're talking to these people during the day, now you calling your clients at work in the evenings, and I was doing home visits at 6 o'clock. I mean, it was just
We do that. We do that. Us, this melanin here, we do that. And I don't know why. Like, I remember I was doing the cleaning business and it's like I'm on my hands and knees. I'm doing a deep clean as a regular clean. I'm scrubbing these people floors, all this stuff. Oh
yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna give you $20 per hour, family friends discount. What? Where other people are doing way less than what I'm doing and charging way more. But I was so scared to like give a price that I thought was legitimate. And it's like oftentimes it's maybe not knowing your worth because I'll tell my friend, she does portraits. She's amazing, right? She's done like 3 or 4 portraits from me. She won't take any money. Now she takes money from other people, but I'm like, I don't have social media, so I can't stalk her page and find out how much the prices are. But I mean, I'm trying to get back into the social media space, but it's like, yes, you're friends, you want to help your friends out, but workman is worth his hire. You're worth something. These things cost hours for you to make and put together. Like you need to charge for what you're worth. But the thing is that I can say that to other people, but when it comes down to me, it's like, well, I don't want them to say anything, and I don't, so the moral of the story is know your worth and get paid your worth. And if you
That's
don't,
right.
it's your fault.
That's right. It is.
The other question I have for you is how can people determine whether entrepreneurship or traditional employment is the best fit for them? I know we talked about kind of like what works for you, what's the flexibility, but in your so you say sometimes you take work home. Like for me, I don't have to take work home. It's just to go in, you punch the clock, you come home. You're not doing anything, at home. But that's also like I haven't been able to get into a position that I went to school for. So I'm working entry level jobs. So for people that are not working entry level jobs, or maybe people that are working entry level jobs, how do you kind of figure out like where do they start to say, okay, how do I step away from this job? Or what hours do I put into entrepreneurship? What hours do I put into work? Where do they start?
Um, I would take a look at first, like, I would tell them to take a look at their capacity first. Because one thing that has stopped me from going full throttle is knowing the amount of energy that I have to put out to do that. And I just have to be honest with myself and tell myself I don't have it, because it requires energy. And then I personally feel like it's helpful to have some type of reservoir of income as well. Because depending on, I mean, for me, like as an author and a coach, I'm paying for advertisement to really be successful. I've had the privilege now of working with like 3 up and coming relationship coaches and therapists. And all 3 of them have both told me that they pay almost three to $5,000 a month in advertisement to get to where they are, to have the platforms, to have the millions of people. It's like that's how much they invest on a regular basis, not to mention the speaking engagements, the scheduler, the staff to support you, all that requires income. And even though everything comes together, I just know for me, I don't have the emotional capacity right now to handle the ups and downs of that coming together. When you don't get the speaking engagement, it's like, what do you do now? How many times do you need to go live? What type of different packages do you need to have? I've sat in rooms with multi-million-dollar coaches or authors, and you think because they have these platforms, the money is just coming in. When you really talk to them, they're doing speaking engagements, they're always on the plane, they're doing coaching sessions, they are paying 4 or $5,000 every time you see that book on Instagram, they're paying for that, for us to see that. It's like that's how the money consistently comes in. And so I just feel like people need to understand like what is my dream like request of me? And then do I have the capacity to do that?
Ooh, like, I don't know. I'm hearing you talk and I'm thinking that's the difference between putting $20 in at the slot machine and putting like $300 in at the slot machine. Like, yeah,
Everything
you gonna hit, but you put $300 in. I, I don't know why. Like, I just feel like, is it worth it?
right. Like, is it really worth it? And I still don't know. So for me, I'm just choosing to let it grow naturally and not push myself because when I did push myself, it was hard. And I'm like, I would have to keep this up. This is exhausting, you know?
That makes sense. I'm thinking about, um, I know someone who works as, she's a provider, right? And so her work goes home with her. right? It's like, I got to get these charts done. I got to get these prescriptions in. I got to get all these things in. Then, so you're at work, I don't know how many hours. Then you have to do that. How do you have the energy to then pour into your business? And then if you pour into your business, when are you going to eat? When are you going to sleep? When are you going to do those things? So that's the rub there for people who have jobs that they have to take home. Like I said, I don't have the job that I have to take home, but for people who have jobs that they have to take home, it's kind of like pick one. I don't know. Is it either pick one or like you said, let it grow naturally? So, hey, on a Sunday when you're not doing much of anything, on a Friday or whatever, if whatever you're not doing, okay, then you can take this time to pour into your business. And then whatever grows from that. But don't force yourself because you know that for you, you don't have that ability to do more than that. Are there any resources or tools you'd recommend for entrepreneurs or employees looking to prioritize their mental health?
I would definitely encourage some form of like therapy or a counselor, even like a spiritual, like coach or um, someone that could kind of lead you through the emotions. Because one thing I will say too, like, is people who struggle with past trauma, entrepreneurship can be really scary because you're possibly constantly getting rejected, ideas not falling, working out the way you want it. You invest in doing something, you don't make any money. I remember like for the first time ever, I launched a workshop that 6 months ago and nobody signed up. And I was like, dang. And I just, okay. Well, Tanisha, maybe people don't need these anymore. And so I put my time into focusing more on getting coaching clients. But just that type of stuff can be really triggering. So having a space is really important.
Yeah, that's important because it's like I've done events. I put so much work and everything into it, and it's like
Your
2
last
people
event
showed
was
up.
incredible. I wish I coulda came.
Well, it wasn't mine. I hosted a part, but the reason why it was incredible because the person who put it together, she's like on her stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking like, wow.
But I mean, yours and Richmond is like,
Yeah, it was yeah, it came together, it came together, and, and it's actually good that not a lot of people came because we ended up having to switch venues at the last minute, and it was only enough space for who was there. But, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times I haven't hung my hat on who's gonna come, but more, is it gonna be impactful? I think that's for me, and like you said, it depends on your past trauma, like with rejection, and I have a lot of issues with rejection, but I think when it comes to because I've been planning events for so long, not necessarily getting paid for it, I understand how that goes. And so I understand that, if I didn't do enough advertising, I know people are not going to come. Or if it's a certain day a week, I know people are not going to come. So I get that. And that's not the rejection part. But like as long as it's been impactful, and I think that's why I tend to veer to the podcast space because it can live in perpetuity. It's like on YouTube, people can continue to listen to it and have impact. And I don't look at the numbers. I don't look at who watched it, maybe once or twice, but I'm just putting it out there, you know? So the rejection for me is not as bad. But I do understand that. When we're talking about rejection, I know that you're offering a 6-week coaching program, Heal, Shift, and Elevate. Are you still doing that? Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how people can get involved?
yeah, so it's a new program that I created to help people like easier than I did before through a 6-week program that can guide you from understanding your past trauma, understanding the triggers and the behavior patterns now that have manifested because of that, and then being ready to do an inventory, of yourself and where you are and the steps that you need to make in order to change your core beliefs. And so it's a process that we do within the 6 weeks. The first 2 weeks of it, we're doing an exercise I call pain mapping, where we just take a look at some of your past trauma and what happened, and then we look at how it shaped you. And then we also look at some core beliefs now that you have about yourself and on life based on the past experiences. So it's been a wonderful process to go through with clients. And yeah, I have a few clients in there now who really like it.
That's good. I did wanna go back to where you were talking about better help, so little thing I messed up. I decided Imma go back to therapy. I think you have to be ready. I think you have to be ready. And it's not like I'm not ready to heal or anything. I just think that honestly, time-wise, I'm just not ready. So, I put my FSA card on there, and it was charging me $65 a week. I only seen a therapist one time, and now my FSA account is done used up, and I have not used BetterHelp. So let me tell the people out there, if you use BetterHelp, pay attention to the plan that you picked. And hey, if you want to pay $65 a week and you're going to talk to your therapist whenever you get a chance, you're going to use the group sessions, you're going to use the journaling, by all means do it. But if you're not, pay attention to your plan because my whole FSA budget is gone and I didn't even use it. I only talked to my therapist once. She was great, but I only talked to her once.
Yeah. Okay.
So so I went ahead and put that on pause because now I'm gonna have to start paying for it for myself. And so that's a thing. Like when I say be ready, not just mentally ready, but when you commit your money and time to healing or getting better, whatever it is, be ready. And I'll say the same thing as we're talking about entrepreneurship. Be ready. Like I think, you know, some things I went ahead and I got a business address, right? I pay for a business email monthly. I pay for a website monthly. I paid it Premiere so I could have this. I pay for the Riverside app so I could be able to edit my podcast. There are so many things where money is coming out, but am I ready to put all the energy that I need into it to get the most out of that? Because I have a business mailbox because I was told by a mentor to have a business mailbox, but I'm only getting like spam mail. I'm not getting mail to that mailbox, right? So the same thing with entrepreneurship, like be ready. Are you ready? You're investing this money, but are you ready to make that money work for you? Or it's just going out the window? So I did want to ask you before we get off. You were talking to me before about some business people that you are working with, some entrepreneurs that you're working with, and kind of their stories. Um, we don't have to say names, but kind of like there are different strokes for different folks. Like this person hit, it took them this long. This person hit, it took them this long. And like, what did you learn from that? If you can just kind of elaborate on some of those stories.
Yeah, so for the most part, like everybody that I work with now, it's been 10 to 15 years, like to really see success. And when they told me that, I was like, "Oh, wow." And that's when it hit me like, this is a journey. And even with the success, like one of my like he wouldn't mind. Like his name is Sean McBride. He's a therapist. And also like now he's becoming like a what you call it, an influencer, content influencer or public figure or anyway, he's trending on TikTok and all those platforms, and he told me to pay attention to what does well and then do that, right? Same thing like with Ken Canyon. I had the privilege of meeting him, working with him as well. Same thing, pay attention to what's working well and then do that, right? It's like Ken is really successful for his relationship coaching, but prior to that, he was on TV and so now he's combined the relationship coaching with TV, right? It's like Sean was just a regular therapist in Maryland, and now he's becoming like a relationship therapist specifically and couples counseling. And so it's like the areas you see that thrive, do that. And so that's kind of been what I'm looking at. And I would also say too, in that, be prepared for something to thrive that you didn't necessarily plan on. Like, I thought I was gonna be an author, making millions of dollars, flying all over the world about my books, and I'm actually ending up being like a workshop facilitator and like a psychoeducation person, telling everybody about codependency. This wasn't my plan. But that's what's thriving. And so that's what I'm doing.
That makes a lot of sense. I feel like you grabbed opportunity, like you went with the flow of things because to be honest, you could have said, I'm rejected. This author thing didn't work. Nobody wants to buy my books. What happened to me flying all around the world and getting things done? But you shifted. You shifted your mindset because it was like, this is working. So this is going to pay bills. So let me do this. And so I just want to thank you so much again for always being so gracious and taking time out to talk to me, give me some insights. And if you guys want to go to tjselfcare.com, all things mental health, workshops, books, everything that you need is there. Please go ahead over to that website and see what you can get out of that. TJ, did you have anything else that you want to tell people about entrepreneurship, punching a clock, mental health, anything else before we get off?
No, just don't be ashamed of your day job if you have one, because that job is funding your dreams. So try to keep that in your mind when you get agitated or frustrated or wonder like, why am I here? It's like it's only temporary. You're here because that's the income you need to focus on your dreams.
That's good. You know how some people say, don't quit your daydream? Don't quit your day job, okay? Don't quit your daydream, but don't quit your day job.
Oh, with your day job, exactly.
Until you can. Do it until, like if God is telling you to walk about that job, then walk about that job. But if the money is telling you you can walk out the job, walk out the job. But understand, like she said, that you need money to fund your dream. All right. Until next time, I am your host, Miss Y. This is Taneshia Johnson. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.